Hi guys, and welcome to today's task. You guys, I know it's a little early for RV season and to get talking about any of that just yet, but we are preparing for a trip, so I'm going to show you what I do to prepare for a trip and what I use for pulling any fifth wheel RV. I know with a lot of fifth wheels, people have a different choice in what kind of kingpin they use, but I don't own an RV, so I use other people's through a rental program, and when I do, I like to use it for my hitch, which happens to be an Anderson fifth wheel hitch. There are a million different hitches out there. There are a million different styles out there. But the reason I chose this one is because I need a hitch that can work with multiple trailers. This is the hitch I chose. I'm not sponsored by Anderson Hitch by any means, but I really like this hitch because it's just really adaptable to whatever system you've got. Other reason I like this hitch is because it weighs next to nothing compared to most hitches. Most fifth wheel yokes that you put in the bed of your truck can weigh 200 to 300 pounds, so you're chain hoisting it out, or you need at least 2 people helping you every time you move it. This one is small enough that anybody can pick it up. It's all aluminum and lightweight, and it works specifically with fifth wheel hitches, which you've seen me install in this particular truck, and I'll actually link that video as well. So all it does is sit on your fifth wheel ball. Let me show you. First step is to slip the bottom of this over top of your fifth wheel ball. And you definitely want the ball going back to the back of the tailgate. Then set your pin that locks it to the fifth wheel ball. Then this screw on top starts tightening everything and sucking it down to the bed of our truck. Now, before we tighten anything down, I really want to center this in this bed so that it's not pulling from the sides at all. It's pulling straight behind the truck. You can pretty well eyeball it, but then I just do a measurement from the front to the back. And just get them square on one side. And now we're centered. And the only tools you really need are a 15/16 socket, a torque wrench, and a crescent wrench, and a phone call from somebody. Hey, it's my dad. And even on the side of the hitch, it gives you the instructions to torque the top bolt to 60 to 70 foot-pounds of torque. So we'll just go to 65 and split the difference. Oh, you hear it? That little clicking noise means we've met the 70 pounds of torque, or 65 pounds of torque, and this is set in place. Now there are 2 bolts on the back of this cylinder that we've locked down, and all it does is just kind of grab them and hold them steady. These don't need to be torqued to any specific pound, just to snug tight. So I just like to get them a little snug, and they're good to go. Here we go. This is locked in place and ready to have the trailer attached to it. Now, this ball can move and adjust depending on how much room you need between your camper and your bed rails. And I've made a few adjustments depending on which models I take. That's kind of up to your choice and how you really feel like it tows. The next step to attach this to the actual trailer itself is a 1/4 inch Allen head driver. Your torque wrench, again, you will need this 15/16 socket, not for any torquing purposes, but just to break it loose. And then a crescent wrench. This is what a typical kingpin looks like. It comes down, there's this small kind of yoke or area that the yoke will clamp around. This is actually what like a big rigs trailer looks like. It looks like this kind of a kingpin as well, and they can be yoked to it. But I don't have the right hitch to do this, and the hitch that I chose has a special mechanism that you put on to adapt for it, and it works so nicely. So here's the mechanism itself upside down. This is where the ball goes into, and this is what attaches to the kingpin itself. You put the kingpin in, put these screws in on either side, and now it clamps. These screws kind of clamp, and then you have special bolts that compress it and suck this tight to the bottom of that kingpin. Come on, oh, get out. Now that you know how it actually secures it to the kingpin, I keep saying these words, I'm sorry, I have to repeat them. Let's bolt it on. This is how it connects, and this is where your ball goes, and that's quite a bit of offset, and the hitch we put in actually offsets the trailer as well. So you can actually put this on and have this forward, and it'll make your trailer sit back another 6 to 8 inches. Not necessarily the worst thing, but I found over time that I prefer to tow it the opposite way. If I put this backwards, like so, it accounts now for the offset of the hitch in my truck and for this offset. And now this kingpin is sitting right above my gooseneck hitch, which is where the weight should be in the first place. So I tow it backwards from here on out. So get your bolts started. Now, there is no set torque for these bolts. Just get them cinched down tight. They're not necessarily what squeezes it to the trailer. They're just what makes it so that it can't slide off later on. Put a washer on, put a nut on, get them started. Put another washer on, put a nut on, get them started. You can just use the same torque wrench that you used before to tighten these nuts up. I'm gonna cheat and use my drill because I don't want to waste time. But if you don't have a drill, a socket wrench will work just fine, or even 2 crescent wrenches. One of my favorite RV tools though is my big heavy impact drill. That drill can put well over 200 foot-pounds of torque on those bolts, and you can still see this thing is loose. So these bolts just hold it so that it doesn't come off this, but they don't secure it to be stable. There's 4 other bolts that we've got to tighten up, and they're actually set screws. There are 2 little screws that we're going to tighten up here, and there's 2 more in the back, and you'll see them. And all we want to do is kind of get those roughly even. There's 1, 2, and once they get a little snug, center it. And just like before, our instructions are on the side. 4 set screws, 40 foot-pounds of torque. So we dial in our torque wrench to 40 foot-pounds of torque, put our 1/4 inch driver on there, and we're ready to go. And I'm not gonna set that one all the way because I wanna kind of get them all sunk up a little bit tighter because they're slacking all of them. Oops, that one's at 40 right there. Okay. Now we're set at 40, and this is not going anywhere. If you've been dealing with those big, heavy yoke and kingpin style trailers for years on end, I recommend these hitches. I really like it. It's light, it's easy to store. It takes up a lot less room in the bed of my truck when it's in there, and then I have this space behind it that I can actually still store stuff and nothing will ever get affected. For the next few weeks, my content is actually gonna revolve around RVing, because at the end of the day, RVing is DIY hotel vacationing. Yeah, I can say that. I can claim that. That's my trademark. RVing is DIY hoteling. I like that. If you guys like today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. There's a lot of noise going on right now. Heading somewhere south. We happen to be going on an RV trip. I don't care. Okay, so you're probably, and it works. So because I don't own a multiple variety of, that's redundant. And it's especially, the other big reason I like this hitch is because it weighs, I don't know how much it weighs. It doesn't really say. Oh, I just like pulled a muscle. Ow! Oh my gosh, what muscle did I just pull? Oh. So now that we know how it goes, or now that you know how it actually attaches, now that you know how it actually secures it to both the truck and the trailer, let's bolt it on. There's another bolt we gotta fix. Those that drill